Let me tell you a tale that's whispered in shadowed corners, where the firelight flickers low and the ale flows thick and dark. It's a story of a prince, not crowned, not glorified, but hunted. A man who shed his royal name and trinkets for the rough cloak of a wandering trader. He was a ghost in his own land, always looking past his shoulder, hoping the shadows would swallow him whole before the knives of his kin could find him. Pull up a stool, lean in close. This tale is not for the faint of heart. Long ago, beyond the rolling hills cloaked in mist and the dark forests where the trees whispered secrets older than the mountains, there lay a kingdom called Eldraith. A place where the air was thick with the scent of cedar and wild herbs, where markets thrived on the edge of the capital city, and magic, though rare, was spoken of in hushed reverence. Eldraith was ruled by King Jorvald, a man as proud and unyielding as the granite cliffs that bordered his realm. His court glittered with jewels, the banners of his house flying high, but beneath the grandeur was a ruthless heart, hardened by years of war and betrayal. And it was in this unforgiving court that Prince Kaelin was born, third son to a throne that never seemed to hold room enough for all its heirs. I was there the night Kaelin's life changed forever, though he didn't know it then. The castle was alive with music and laughter, a feast to celebrate the harvest. Candles burned in golden sconces, their flames dancing against stone walls etched with the family's sigil. But in the labyrinthine corridors of Eldraith's keep, danger waited. Kaelin had always been different from his elder brothers. Quiet, thoughtful, with a keen eye for the unusual. He was never the sword raised in challenge or the loud voice barking orders. Instead, he favored the small moments, the curve of a leaf in the courtyard, the glimmer of an odd trinket in the market, the distant crackle of thunder before a storm. His gift was curiosity. His curse, perhaps, was that curiosity made him a threat. That night, as the celebration raged, a secret council met in the deepest chambers of the castle. Whispers were like poison in the air, words about the weak prince, about how his quiet ways threatened the kingdom's strength. Some said his magic, the rare flicker he carried in his veins, was a danger, a curse that could unravel their rule. I cannot say who first moved against him. Power breeds shadows. But before dawn, the king's decree was clear. Prince Kaelin was to be found, silenced. Kaelin fled. Barefoot and cloaked, he slipped through secret passages known only to a few. The cold stone walls pressed close as he made his way to the stables, heart pounding like the hooves of a fleeing beast. There, under the watchful eyes of the stable master, a loyal man whose life he saved once, he found a horse waiting. Not the gilded steeds of the court, but a plain, sturdy mare, bred for endurance rather than beauty. He did not look back as he rode away, swallowed by the dark woods that ringed Eldraith. He left behind the halls of marble and gold, the crown that was never his, and the family that wanted him dead. For years, no one knew where he went. The king's men scoured the borders, searching for the prince who vanished like a ghost. But Kaelin did not disappear into thin air. No, he became something else entirely. A wandering trader. He took on many names, each as fleeting as the wind. He learned the art of the market, how to barter, how to charm, how to conceal his true self beneath layers of cloth and shadow. He carried with him little more than a leather satchel filled with trinkets, glass beads from distant lands, carved bone talismans, herbs that shimmered faintly in moonlight. items of no great worth to most, but to those who knew the old ways, these were treasures. He traveled the dusty roads from village to village, trading wares and stories, always watching, always listening. But in his eyes was a fear that never left him, the fear of being found. Imagine walking for miles through rain-slick forests, your breath steaming in the chill dawn air. You pass through hamlets where children eye you with suspicion, and inns where the laughter stops the moment you enter. That was Kalen's life. Never still, never safe. His hands bore calluses from riding and from sharpening knives to defend himself. His back ached from carrying his meager goods, and his heart was a fortress of loneliness. He learned to trust no one. Every smile could mask a dagger, every friendly nod a herald of betrayal. One evening in a tavern much like this one, nestled against the borderlands near the Silver Pines, Kalen sat nursing a mug of bitter ale. His cloak was threadbare, his boots dusty from the road. He was no longer a prince in appearance, just another face in the crowd. But he was still a prince in spirit, and in the shadows behind his eyes, a burning hope smoldered. Magic in Eldraith was not like the grand spells of legend. It was subtle, more a whisper than a roar, a flicker of light in the darkest night, the sudden bloom of a rare flower, the soft murmur of the earth beneath your feet. Kalen's magic was rare and delicate. He could coax seeds to sprout in barren soil, mend broken twigs with a touch, and sometimes, when the stars aligned, glimpse into moments yet to come. But he kept his gift hidden. Magic was a threat in the wrong hands, and his own blood had learned to fear and despise it. Yet, it was magic that saved him more than once. On a night thick with fog when his pursuers closed in, Kalen slipped away unseen, leaving behind a faint shimmer in the air, a trick of the light that led his hunters astray. The king's men never gave up. Captain Varric was the man tasked with hunting Kalen down. A hulking figure with a scar running from temple to jawline, Varric knew the roads and forests better than any other. He was relentless, driven not only by loyalty to the crown, but by his own cold code of honor. He spoke often of the lost prince with a mixture of contempt and fascination, certain he would bring the boy back, dead or alive. There were times when Kalen caught glimpses of Varric's men, shadows on the horizon, flickers of torchlight through trees. Each time his heart quickened, his hand tightened around the hilt of a small dagger, his breath caught in his throat. To be hunted by your own blood is a cruelty unlike any other. It was in a border village called Greybrook, where Kalen's fate twisted again. The village was little more than a cluster of thatched roofs and muddy streets, but it had a secret. An old woman known as Merwin, the Herb Witch. Merwin was a figure both feared and respected. She brewed potions that could heal wounds, cure curses, and sometimes grant fleeting glimpses into the future. Kalen sought her out, disguised as a weary trader looking for rare herbs. He found a woman with eyes like storm clouds, and a voice that rustled like dry leaves. "You carry shadows with you, Prince," she said, almost before he spoke. He froze. How could she know? "Magic always betrays," she continued, "but it can also protect." From that day forward, Merwin became a silent guardian. She gifted him with potions that cloaked his presence, charms that masked his scent from hounds, and taught him how to listen to the land's hidden voice. But even with Merwin's help, the past clawed at Kalen relentlessly. Letters from home arrived on the wind, or sometimes in the hands of a disguised courier. Messages laced with threats, promises, and twisted reminders of what he had lost. His brothers, once his playmates, were now his executioners in waiting. Yet, he held on to one secret hope, that somewhere beyond the reach of the king's decree, a chance for peace awaited. He dreamed of a place where he could lay down his cloak and sword, where he might be more than a ghost, more than a prince without a throne. And that, my friends, is where the story crosses paths with this very tavern. For it was here, amidst the scent of burning pine and spilled ale, that Kaelin's journey found a moment's pause. He came one night just as the moon slipped behind dark clouds, wearing a cloak soaked from the rain and eyes sharp as flint. He ordered a simple meal, a fire in the hearth crackling nearby, and settled into a shadowed corner. No one asked his name, no one pressed him for tales. It was the kind of silence that speaks volumes. I watched him, as one does who has seen many faces pass through these doors. Something in his posture, the way his hand never strayed far from his dagger, spoke of a story far deeper than any bard's song. Over time, I learned a little. He traded goods, yes, but also information. Whispers of distant lands, rumors of magic stirring beyond the mountains. He spoke little of his past, yet there was a weight in his voice that told of blood, debts, and broken vows. One evening, after the tavern emptied and the last of the embers faded, Kaelin confided a fragment of his truth. He spoke of a prophecy, buried in ancient scrolls, that a lost prince would rise to mend the kingdom's broken heart. Perhaps, he said softly, there is still a chance for Eldraith, not through blood and battle, but through the courage to change. And in that moment I saw not a hunted prince, but a man bearing the fragile hope of a better dawn. I tell you this not because the story ends here. No, in these lands stories are like rivers, ever flowing, winding through time and space. Kaelin's fate remains unwritten. Whether he claims a throne or fades into legend, only the stars know. But what I do know, and what I want you to carry with you when you leave this tavern, is this. Even a prince without a crown, a man with nothing but a wandering trader's cloak, can hold the power to change the world. And sometimes, the greatest magic lies not in spells or swords, but in the courage to keep walking, no matter how dark the path. So, next time you hear the whisper of a traitor on the wind, remember Kaelin, the prince who became a shadow, and yet never lost his light. Now, pour yourself another drink and listen well, because in this tavern, every face hides a story, and every story holds a secret.